Good morning, everybody. Good morning and welcome to today's Africa Startup Ecosystems Learning Lab. This is the first of a series of learning, I'll call them meetings, seminars, webinars that we are running using the Africa Startup Ecosystem Builders. And this will be a run-up to the award ceremony that is later on at the end of this month. So what is Africa Startup Ecosystem Builders Summit and Awards? It is a key initiative by Set Up a Startup designed to foster innovation, collaboration, and growth within Africa's entrepreneurial landscape. So if you know anybody who's innovation, if you know anybody who is an entrepreneur and wants to grow or wants to collaborate, this is the place. Tell them to join in so that they can learn more about what is happening within the ecosystem builders space. So ASEP champions ecosystem building as a unique approach to economic development, and they aim to empower individuals and communities through entrepreneurship. This event in particular, is more than an annual gathering of communities. It features workshops, it features breakout sessions and collaborative activities that allow participants to develop tools, resources, and innovative strategies. So tools to do the work, tools to just set up the systems, correct systems for your company or your business to grow. Resources to help you know where to go, who to connect with, and the strategies that give you your business a better way to learn so that you do not fail within your first few years. So these interactive sessions are to encourage the exchange of ideas and to share best practices. Somebody is ahead of somebody else, and learning from others keeps you in a good place just to be able to be a success in the field that you choose to. And collaboration to build resilient ecosystems that uplift communities. So ASEP is not just ASEP, but it is all that and so much more. So if you're online, if you're hearing us, and there's somebody who comes to mind from what I have said, give them a call, share the link, let them join in so that they can learn about today. So the SME Founders Association is proud to be the ASEP Kenya chapter, actively contributing to the initiative's missions and goals. So with that said, today we are going to be learning about, let me just share my screen so that you can see the program. Give me a minute. That you will be able to know exactly how our program for today looks like and what we are going to be learning about. So today we are learning about worker cooperatives. And in learning about worker cooperatives, we just want to know, what is worker cooperatives? What are the benefits of being in a worker cooperative? And what is the concept of a worker cooperative, and how do they contribute to an inclusive entrepreneurship? We will have a session on teaching, and we will have a panel moderated by Githu, who I am just about to hand over to so that he can take this away as I also look for my notebook and take notes to learn more from Ian and the panelists. Ian, over to you.
Thank you so much, Convener Josephine Osumo. And I hope that everyone is having a lovely good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, depending on where you are getting to hear us from. And I can hear and I can see that everyone is ready to have a fantastic day. Josephine, thank you so much for having me on board. And ladies and gentlemen, allow me to say that we are on to a very good and amazing session here today. Without much further ado, allow me to invite on stage our presenter and our main panelist. Ladies and gentlemen, it is my absolute pleasure to introduce Our distinguished speaker today, Mike Kipngeno. Mike is a powerhouse in the realm of cooperative development with an impressive track record of fostering sustainable growth and community empowerment. He's currently serving as the Senior Cooperative Officer for the USAID CREA program at Global Communities. And if you thought that was all, well, here's something else for you that Mike brings over 4 years of dedicated service where he has transformed the cooperative landscape across multiple sectors, including agriculture, dairy, and housing. He has touched countless of lives in much counties that you get to hear across Kenya, Meru, Nairobi, Nakuru. Think of Mombasa. Mike has that expertise in financial management and strategic development. Well, he's a beacon of hope for many people. And this very morning, he's going to be a beacon of hope as he leads us clear the session of worker cooperatives. What is worker cooperatives and how does that concern you? Ladies and gentlemen, with a round of applause, allow me to introduce Mike Kipngeno. Mike, the stage is yours.
Thank you very much, Ian, and team from SFA. Just putting on my camera just to confirm to you that the voice behind is a real human being and not a bot. And thanks for those accolades. And I want to start off by expressing my gratitude for this opportunity to share insights this morning into the early afternoon on worker cooperatives. And so I will be joined by Christopher, who will be representing Rogers Rombe from Kigro Recyclers. And so we'll be sharing some of the insights on some of the work we've done and deep diving into the worker cooperative model. So just requesting if you could give me the co-host rights to allow me share a few slides before we get into discussion and Q&A. Great. So just give me a few minutes to have my slides up. Ian and the team, kindly confirm to me that you can view my slides in presentation mode.
Absolutely. Mike, I can confirm that I can see them.
Fantastic. Okay, great. So you will allow me to have my video off just to ensure that the bandwidth is sustained throughout this presentation. So as you've heard during the introduction, today I'm going to take you through Understanding Worker Cooperatives, Pathway to Inclusive Entrepreneurship. And here is what we're going to focus today. And essentially the purpose is to introduce to you worker cooperatives and how it relates to and differs from other forms of business. And by the end, we'll be able to understand the difference between worker cooperatives and other form of business. And I believe that majority of us here are being either founders or players within the small and medium enterprises space. Perhaps majority of our businesses are limited. And so we'll be exploring to see the difference between worker cooperatives and its potential, and also looking at some of the work we've been working under the CLEAR program. First, I would wish to start off by talking about who Global Communities is, and Global Communities is an international non-governmental organization which has been in existence for over 60 years, working in over 26 countries spanning across Africa, Asia, Europe, Americas, and the Middle East. And currently in Kenya, Global Communities is currently implementing two main programs. That's the USAID Clear Plus program, which stands for the Cooperative Leadership, Engagement, Advocacy, and Research, mainly focusing on supporting worker cooperatives here in Kenya. The other program is AfriScout, which is a tech-based program supporting pastoralist communities to find grazing land. Just a bit about getting to understand about Clear Plus program, which is structured into three main objectives. The first objective is improve the enabling environment for worker cooperatives. And I wish to acknowledge the presence of our project director, Madam Olga Oye, who is also the Global Communities Kenya country team lead. She's the one championing the first objective on the improved enabling environment for worker cooperative. The second objective is strengthen worker cooperative capacity, which essentially support early stage development of worker cooperatives to improve their services through, or rather in partnership with the business service providers. And the third objective of our project is learning applied in the development community. And so essentially Clear Plus, building on the success of the preceding program, which was dubbed Clear, across the three objectives. Our approach is we are adopting the market systems approach in the Clear Plus project. And so the focus is on creating sustainable, inclusive market systems that benefit all stakeholders. And some of the key components we're looking at is in terms of market access, value chain development, looking at the end-to-end in terms of all the stages of value chain from production to marketing. The also component of innovation, where we endeavor to promote the adoption of innovative solutions to existing challenges in the sector. And this squarely falls under what we're having the discussion today of looking at worker cooperatives being a pathway of inclusive entrepreneurship, and what are some of the innovative ways that this model could be utilized. The other component is on inclusivity, ensuring marginalized groups, including women and youth. And last but not least is on business service providers partnership to provide critical support services. And I'm made to understand that some of the SMEs present in this webinar falls within the advisories, or offering some of the advisory services to other business enterprises. Straight now into our discussion for today, just trying to understand what exactly is this type of a business model. And one of the questions we could be asking ourselves is, what's a cooperative, before we go into a worker cooperative? And so a definition of a cooperative is basically an enterprise owned and operated by members to realize their economic goals. And these members can be either consumers, producers, or workers. And the members can either invest together, buy together, sell together, or work together. What members choose to do together determines what the business is formed, either a savings and credit cooperative. We are all aware, majority of us are aware about SACCOs. It can either be a producer cooperative or a worker cooperative. And just to emphasize is whatever the reason is for why they are formed, cooperatives are all democratically controlled by their members and driven by by values and principles. And as entities driven by values, not just profits, cooperatives share the international agreed principles. We normally refer to them as the International Cooperative Alliance 7 principles, and act together to build a better world through cooperation. And as you know, just some of the facts findings, cooperative movement is far from being marginal, and at least 12% of humanity is a cooperator of the approximately 3 million cooperatives on Earth. So with that, you can see the impact the cooperative movement has in the global economy. And so now getting to what a worker cooperative is, and how distinct worker cooperatives compared to other cooperatives, as well as other more conventional businesses, for instance, either partnerships, limited companies. And so just quickly looking at these, worker cooperatives are business owned and controlled by the people. I've just mentioned that, who work within these businesses. These who essentially are workers. And the definition can further be broken down into 3 different characteristics that define what it means to be owned and controlled by our workers. And so first, let's look at the ownership bit of it. In worker cooperatives, essentially, workers make financial investment into the business. And the cooperative or the business entity for this case decides on what that amount is based on the industry they are in and the value of the company, or rather the business enterprise, and the financial needs of the business. And the number of members and other factors is also put into consideration. And in return, members are able to get shares as part of their ownership into the cooperative. And one unique thing I wish to mention about cooperative is that unlike conventional limited liability companies where ownership is pegged on the amount of shares you have, for cooperatives, when decision-making, on decision-making, one member, in terms of voting, or rather making decision through voting, the principle of one member, one vote applies. Unlike for limited companies where, depending on your share ownership, that would determine the control and the decision-making structure within those limited companies. Secondly, looking at control, only the members can make decisions about the cooperative, and decisions are made on one member, one vote basis. I've just mentioned that. And in a worker cooperative, most decisions are made by workers themselves and are made by workers through some type of voting, especially those decisions which affect either the nature or the business blinds. For instance, bringing new owners or selling the business, those decisions are normally taken to members in an AGM or a special general meeting. The aspect of one member, one vote, regardless of how much time or money you have put into the business, each member would be having one vote in terms of the decision making. The idea here is that no one person controls the business, but workers are making decisions and taking responsibility for the business together. Lastly, workers benefit from being part of the cooperative, and that is realized in a number of ways. One is that members benefit by getting wages for their work, and also by sharing benefits or sharing profits for this case. They're also able to benefit by learning about the business and having access to financial information about the business, and by having a voice and a vote, and by having opportunities to grow and develop as people in the workplace. Just quickly looking at the membership difference, conventionally, majority of us are aware about circles where, for instance, members are putting in money into the cooperative and expect to get credit from it. If you look at the diagram on your far left, you can see that members are putting in money into the cooperative in exchange of credit. In the case of agricultural cooperatives, members are selling their produce to the cooperative in order to access greater markets, to have more power and negotiate for prices. So in the case of farmers, basically they are selling their either coffee, milk under the brand of their cooperative. And again, from the diagram, we can be able to see that members are bringing in products to the cooperative, and the cooperative is providing them with money in exchange of the products they are supplying to the cooperative. Now looking at worker cooperatives, members are selling or providing labor to the cooperative, and in return earn wages plus added benefits of a surplus sharing. This example of worker cooperatives is more intensive and intentional for the members. It is committed, it shows a commitment of membership working in a way that non-members do not have similar benefits to the members. And also by looking at that last example of worker cooperative is that the relationship between members putting in their labor and the output of money in terms of either wages or surplus that is shared among the members of the cooperative. Looking at worker cooperative context globally and also locally, we just quickly talk about where worker cooperatives as whole in the world. And I'd mentioned that approximately 12% of all people on planet are members of some form of cooperatives. But what about worker cooperatives? And just to mention that this is pretty much a new concept here in Kenya. And looking at the global distribution, or rather demographics for worker cooperatives, Spain has more than 18,000 worker cooperatives. In Italy, we have more than 25,000. And in Argentina, we have 6,000 worker cooperatives there. Also the same case with the US, worker cooperative sector is small and growing, and approximately 612 worker cooperatives are in US, having approximately $283 million per year in revenue. Here in Kenya, worker cooperatives is really just beginning, and currently there are over 15 worker cooperatives in Kenya, and all have been launched in support of different developers since 2019 to date. Some of these are in different industries. Solar, we have construction, entertainment, recycling, and more. And the reason why as these numbers are few is that perhaps there's lack of adequate technical support and cooperative developers to support this new model. Just quickly looking at how worker cooperatives form. They can form in three different ways. One is in a conversion where a business owner is ready to retire or leave the business and does not want to lose their legacy. And so basically, they want to the business to remain and to share the risk and rewards with the workers. And so one of the ways is that they can either choose to convert their business into a worker cooperative to preserve the business and also to save the existing jobs and to preserve the investment they have put into their business. And therefore, the workers and the community are able to benefit by being members. A second way where on how worker cooperatives can form is through startup cooperatives, where they are formed by a group of individuals who want to have more autonomy and control over their work. And so they have the skills, network, and access to market to run the business. And through that, they may need some support, but they generally can find it on their own or have access to information easily. Lastly is the organized corps, which basically developers come in and having identified the need to either create more jobs for maybe specific groups in the community, specifically to access decent jobs that may be more stable and more, or rather pay more and have better working condition. And so they'll be able to be supported on that. Here in Kenya, majority of the worker cooperatives we've worked or supported in the past are either converted or the startup cooperatives. So just to wrap up this first phase, I wish to play a quick documentary on worker cooperatives, and I will give us some of the insights into how a worker cooperative is formed. Ian, you'll confirm to me about the audio.
All right.
Ian, is the audio okay?
Just hit play. I can't hear any audio.
Okay, so let me just check on audio, and then we can quickly get to view this. Also, I can see Christopher from Kigro has joined us, and so I wish to, as we sort out the audio issues, I wish to invite Christopher from Kigro, who is the secretary, to share more about Kigro and the space they are working. Chris, you can unmute, introduce yourself, and give us a background and a history of Kigro Recyclers.
Good morning. Hello.
Good morning, Chris. We can hear you.
Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
I'm Christopher. I'm Christopher Odiamo from Kipngeno Worker Cooperatives. My partner was supposed to be around, but apologies on his behalf. Hello. I hope everyone can hear me.
Yes, Chris, kindly proceed. We can hear you loud and clear.
Okay. Kipngeno actually started as an enterprise. It was formed by two. That's quite a long time ago. Some of us were in school. Some were not focused with what to do with life. Some were not serious. So Kipngeno basically it started as an enterprise with two people. Then it moved to a youth group. Now during the transition from enterprise to youth group, that's where many members joined, me, myself included. And as we continued working, the job was hard actually, because there was no structure. We just used to wake up, tunaenda kwa manyumba, tunaokota garbage. Hata hatufanyi recycling. We go and dump and then get the little money from just collecting the garbage. Now, as time passed by, we met Akina Mike and Clear. So we were enlightened on the worker cooperative module. I can say it's been quite a journey, because the transition from the youth group to the worker cooperative, that's where I can say the music was. Because we actually lost some members. Some didn't like the worker ownership idea, because I won't judge, but that's where the music was. But as we transitioned from the youth group to the worker cooperative, approaching clients became easier. There was this purpose that came with the transition, because you felt like instead of being employed, you actually owned this work, you actually owned the company. Sasa morali ikakuja kutoka hapo. Hello?
We can hear you, Christopher. Just
Yes,
continue.
Christopher, please proceed.
Hello? Kwa ufupi, what we do at Kipngeno Recyclers Worker Cooperative, so we moved from just collecting the garbage. Nowadays, we sort it out from there are types of garbages, I would say that. Na kwa hiyo harakati ya hizi types za garbages, tunapata pesa mingi zaidi juu kwa hiyo garbage kuna vitu tunauza. Umeona? So hii module at least sahi waka akijoin anajua yeye apati tu mshahara. Akishapata mshahara alipe dividends hapo monthly, yeye anakuwa yeye ana own hii kitu, ako na say. Si ati anakuja tu kazi, ati anaweza vutwa kazi saa yote. Hapana. Ndamalizia hapo. Nashukuru.
Thanks, Chris. So quickly.
Hello.
Ian, can you confirm now the audio is up?
Yes.
Okay, so let me quickly play this and then we can jump into the next session.
Kipngeno Recyclers Worker Cooperative was started as an enterprise. It was started by Alex Kariuki, who is our treasurer, and I, Rogers Rombe.
Treasurer wetu ambaye anaitwa Alex Kariuki.
The county government used to do cleanup, but then stopped and left behind some waste. We decided to clean up the residue using a cart. Clients started asking us if we could too carry waste for them. That's when we noticed that it was an income-generating activity.
Before I joined, I was a sociology student at the University of Nairobi. But upon graduation, I could not secure a job. That prompted us to venture into self-employment.
I was a chef. But during the COVID-19, the hotels were shut down and things became difficult for me. Before I joined the cooperative, I was really struggling.
Hatukukuwa tunajua mambo ya worker cooperative.
We didn't know about worker cooperative until we met global communities, and they taught us about this model, which we saw will fit in what we do. Apart from that, the two of us could not work alone. In the beginning, other youth despised this job. But as we continued, they realized that there is money in this job. That's when they started joining us. The thing that made us join the worker cooperative is teamwork. You don't want any of the members to leave. You will want to retain them, and also that they can get more benefits than just the wage they get when paid. And that's when we thought of forming the cooperative, so that when you come to work, there's much more that you can gain apart from only the salary or wage that you get.
Much more that you can gain apart from only the salary ama the wage that you get.
We found the worker cooperative model.
Tuligundua mtindo wa ushirika wa wafanyikazi kwa kielezo kizuri cha kutumia na kama chanzo cha kuongeza ushiriki wa vijana na ujumuishaji wa kijinsia ndani ya mfumo ekolojia wa ushirika nchini Kenya.
As a lady, kama mwanamke nina furaha kuwa mwanachama wa Kipngeno kwa sababu ninaweza kupata pesa, kupata mikopo na kuweka akiba. Nina fursa pia ya kuendeleza masomo yangu kwa kiwango tofauti kuliko nilichonacho sasa. Sana.
Nilikuwa nafikiria ile design.
I used to think that women should only do household chores. But when I attended the global communities gender training, I learned that we should prioritize gender equity and equality.
Ile nikajua hizi gender zetu male na female kunafaa kuwa na equity na equality.
I have been empowered socially and economically. Socially, how to interact with people. I have purpose and meaning in the work that I do.
Na mtu hivi sasa unaenda with the purpose and with the meaning.
The worker cooperative.
Mtindo wa ushirika wa wafanyikazi hutoa kazi za muda mrefu kwa sababu mwanachama ni mfanyikazi na ni mmiliki. Kwa hivyo kuna usalama wa kazi hapo. Pia tumeona inatoa mapato bora kwa wanachama.
Better income for the member.
Nimefaidika, naweza lipa nyumba on time.
I have benefited as I am able to pay rent on time and save too. I have consistent income.
People used to run away. They will come to work today and not show up the next day. But in worker cooperative, we pay monthly subscription and membership fees, and we still get paid.
I believe.
Ninaamini kuwa Kenya iko katika wakati mzuri sana wa kupokea vuguvugu la ushirika, na haswa zaidi kwa mtindo wa ushirika wa wafanyikazi kupitia sera za maendeleo, nafasi ya kutunga sheria ili kusisitiza mtindo wa ushirika wa wafanyikazi na kuutambua, na vilevile kuwa na ushirika wa wafanyikazi wa majaribio ambao uko tayari kutetea hitaji la ushirika wa wafanyikazi na kuukuza ndani ya nchi.
We used to be called street urchin, and sometimes I will go home and was asked why I went to school, yet being a street urchin didn't require education. But now, they don't call us street urchin. They refer to us as Kipngeno, and we got the name when we took the job seriously.
Pata jina kulingana na hii kazi vile tuliichukua serious.
Yeah, so that's it in terms of wrapping up the potential of a worker cooperative. And maybe just to mention something as a wrap up to that is studies have shown that cooperatives remained more resilient in terms of economic shocks. And one of the benefits of also cooperatives is that people who have skill sets are able to utilize and aggregate those skill sets and be able to form a business using this type of worker cooperative. And so you can see the potential in which this particular model could work. And just to mention some of the areas where high potential areas for worker cooperatives are in the building and construction, mechanical and engineering. Those we could refer to them as the Juakali, performing arts, tourism, utility delivery, waste management. We've just seen a documentary by Kipngeno, recyclers, and also the space of domestic, where those within that particular space can come together, aggregate their skills, and be able to provide services on that. So at this point, I wish to pass it over to Ian. Can get to the next.
All right, thank you. Thank you so much, Mike Kipngeno. That was quite an amazing session. I didn't know that worker cooperatives had such a huge audience in the outside markets. And I hope that the same story can be said about Kenya. One thing that I've actually now for each and every time when I learn something, I try to simplify it so much in a way that a 10-year-old would understand. And this is how I understood. And Mike Kipngeno, you can guide me on this one and whether this is how worker cooperatives do actually operate. That say that you have a couple of friends and you want to start, let's say, a baking business, and you have brought them together and you come and look for resources. And in this search for resources, no one gets to be the boss and everyone gets to be the worker. Everyone gets to be the boss. You set up the business, and when profits come, you get to share the profits equally. Is that what worker cooperatives is to a 10-year-old?
So basically, to your point is that there's a business idea that you've already identified. That's the first step. And so just also to mention is that worker cooperative has a governing structure where it's governed by the board of directors, and also there's a supervisory committee who acts as a watchdog to the board of directors. And so with that governance structure, the unique thing about worker cooperative is that members are the decision makers, which they are able to exercise their decision. And so one of the key things is that once you've identified a business, for instance, you've mentioned about a bakery, I suppose that these are people with a common bond or rather skills that bring them together, and they're able to aggregate that skills and be able to do a business. And yes, with that common bond skills set, they can be able to aggregate their skills and be able to set up a business. And one unique thing about cooperatives is that government also is keen to support cooperatives, and through the Ministry of Cooperatives and MSMEs, they are getting some of the services, for instance, training and capacity strengthening, audit services, among other. And there are also other development actors within the space to, like global communities, the Clear Plus project, who can come in and able to support them to catalyze their growth. Yeah.
All right, Mike, help us paint the picture even further. So I have 5 friends, so I can see that in the room we have Kezia, we have Olga, Cedric, and so the 5 of us come together and we have a common goal, we have common skills, and we have a common purpose to start a business. Say, case in question, the bakery business. How do we go about setting it from just being, from it not just being a normal business to it being a worker cooperative? Ideal setup.
Perfect. So I'll try and make it this classical and simple as much as possible. So a starting point is, I mentioned you have a business idea. So the question is, how can we formalize our business? And so registration of cooperatives begin at the sub-county level. And you know the governing structure in Kenya is devolved, where we have both the national and the county government. And within the county government, we have the sub-counties. Cooperatives is a devolved function as per the 2010 Constitution of Kenya. And so the registration of cooperatives, where at this point we can term as the promotion of a cooperative, begin at the sub-county level. And so one, you are able to identify that, for instance, the five folks are in Nairobi County. The second question would be, which sub-county are you? And so once you've been able to identify, there is always an officer within each sub-county who will be able to support in the registration process. And one of the things that are required for the registration process are the initial members who will act as the promoters in the case of limited companies when you're registering. So in this case also, they need to be that. And looking at the requirement is that under the current legislation for cooperatives, that's Cap 490 of the Cooperative Societies Act, is that what you're required as the minimum membership to register a cooperative is 10 members. And so once the 10 of you have come together, you have an idea, a cooperative sub-county cooperative officer would come, do what we call an economic appraisal for him or her to establish whether the business idea you have is economically viable. Once that is established, you are able to fill the forms, which now are forwarded through the county cooperative department to the national government. That's the State Department for Cooperatives, which is under the Ministry of Cooperatives and MSMEs, specifically to the office of the Commissioner for Cooperatives, which is in charge with registration of, certification of the cooperative. So essentially, that's how the registration process. And the sub-county cooperative officer would also take members through what we call the pre-cooperative training for members, or rather the promoters or the initial members, to be able to identify, for them to be able to understand this type of business model. And once you've been able to, of course, also I need to mention that one of the requirements is also coming up with the bylaws, which is like a constitution which governs the operations of the cooperative. And so once that is done, after registration, the documents are approved, a certificate is awarded, post incorporation training is also done. And so from then now, once the certificate is awarded, the business entity would be recognized as a legal entity like a limited company, and they can be able to trade and do business, the bakery business for this case, as that. So that's the process on how a worker cooperative is established.
Wow, that's quite a lengthy process. Now, Mike, I also have another question in that same line. Can we say that maybe a partnership business, in the case where the 10 of us, you, Mike, and we have Josephine Osumo, so the 10 of us come together and form a partnership business. So how different is it from a cooperative business, and what are the benefits of a worker cooperative over a partnership business? Is it the kind of support the government gives? Is there any funding, let's say the cooperative society, the cooperative ministry in the land of Kenya gives? What are the benefits that far outweigh that of us coming together and just forming a business on our own?
Absolutely. So one of the benefits you've talked about is the existing structures that are in place from the government to be able to provide some of the services. For instance, I talked about the training, capacity building, which the government is keen on. Now let's compare vis-a-vis partnership and cooperatives for this case. And so one of the things about cooperatives, I would want to describe cooperative first of all as a social enterprise. By this, I mean that cooperatives not only look at the social aspect, but also cooperatives not only look at the economic aspect, but also incorporate the social aspect of its membership. And so in the endeavor, members do business. There's also that social aspect where members come together and be able to support each other through the cooperative itself. The other bit is cooperative or worker cooperatives as a cooperative, as a business model, is able to attract other stakeholders. For instance, development organization, for instance, like global communities, to be able to support either in form of technical assistance, training, linkages, compared to partnership where it's sort of limited to ensuring that either you contribute your capital, ensure that you sharpen your skills and go to the market and compete with other businesses that do exist. So looking at the structure and the enabling environment for cooperatives to thrive, the benefits are enormous. And also access to finance, where there are some of the tailored products where they are specifically geared towards cooperatives. And so you can see the other bit also is in terms of, I talked about aggregation of skills, whereby in cooperatives, you come in and ensure that, or rather tap into members' skills and be able now to do business to that. So the other, last but not least, is looking at cooperatives as semi-autonomous government agencies. What I mean is that cooperatives are not government institutions, but government comes in to ensure that they put checks and balances to ensure that resources which belongs to members are protected. And cooperatives also operating in a legal environment, you find that having that ministry and a state department for cooperatives, where one of the requirements for cooperatives is to do annual audits. There's the aspect of elections whereby the board members are elected and are able to, and one of the requirements for the board members is to ensure that they protect the resources for members. And so you can see also through the existing government structures, government indirectly ensures that they are able to support and provide an enabling environment and even control to ensure that governance issues are not either derailing or bringing down some of the business that we've witnessed in the space we are operating in.
All right, thank you, Mike. Now, this is me hearing that government can actually participate in helping you build your business. I didn't know that. And Mike, I have another question for you from Miriam Sheila Kamau. She's asking, and this is her point of note, that you earlier stated that the worker cooperatives is kind of new in Kenya. How new is new? Or is it a new term for business formed by groups of friends or families? Now, you can briefly answer that because I can see Olga Oye has answered the same.
Yeah, absolutely. So pretty much Kenya, we can all attest to the fact that we are more conversant about either financial cooperatives, which are the SACCOs, or agricultural cooperatives. And so worker cooperative is a new concept here in Kenya, and through the Clear Plus project and the preceding Clear project, what we've been doing is to sensitize members of the public about this particular new model. And one of the things also we can see that this particular new model has a potential to addressing the unemployment concept. So to answer the question, how new is that Global Communities as an organization is a pioneer non-governmental organization to introduce this concept in Kenya, tracing back to 2019, where there was a pilot project called Emerge, which subsequently gave birth to a Clear program, which just recently ended. And out of the successes of that program, and also looking at the traction that we've seen, we have a new program that's a Clear Plus program, where now we are scaling. So this being a new model and looking at its potential, and also the practicability of adopting this particular model across the different I-survey sectors. I talked about tourism, mechanical, the geocali space. You can see that the potential across that. So it's pretty much new. Also in terms of the legal structures, and for those within that particular space of legal space, you are aware that there are reforms in place for within the cooperative movement, that we now have a proposed cooperative bill which is in Parliament. And one of the wins for the cooperative movement is the recognition of worker cooperative as one of the primary cooperatives that can be registered. And now that recognition in the law would ensure that there is an enabling environment to register more cooperatives and even support this new endeavor.
All right. Thank you, Mike. Thank you, Mike, for that wonderful reply. And I can see that Frederick Nundu had a question. Is worker cooperatives the same as traditional cooperatives? And I can see again, thank you so much, Olga Oyer has answered and said, yes, the worker cooperative is one of the types of cooperatives that can be formed in Kenya. The difference is the operational model, where the worker, who is also an owner, brings their labor to the cooperative, and the cooperative pays wages for the work done, as well as dividends at the end of the year, depending on the cooperative performance, subject to the annual general meeting. Mike, do you agree with that?
Fantastic, spot on.
Perfect. Now we are proceeding on to take questions from the audience. And from Susan Akinyi, I can see another question. Is the registration for a worker cooperative the same as for a normal business? And I believe you answered that, Mike. Do you have anything else to add?
Yeah, I mentioned about the difference. So maybe the difference basically is for limited companies. We all do understand that you can do this through the e-citizen and the respective bodies. But for the cooperatives, you can see that there is an opportunity for you to be handheld through the process, through the existing structures in place.
All right, all right. Thank you so much. I can see another question. Let me see. Now that is a reply. Can a limited company with several shareholders be converted into a worker cooperative? Wonderful question.
Absolutely. So one, I mentioned earlier on about formation of cooperatives, the three ways in which worker cooperatives can be formed. And one of them was conversion. The second one was startup, and the third one was organized. And so for the in conversion, business, a business owner or business owners for this case, who are ready to retire or leave the business and does not want to lose their legacy for this case, can decide to convert this, and they can choose to convert their business into a worker cooperative, and by doing that is essentially transferring the ownership to the employees, who will now in turn become worker owners of the business. And so the short answer to that is yes. And the approach would be conversion from a limited company to a worker cooperative for that case.
All right. Thank you so much, Irene from Hallmark, for that wonderful question. And I have another question for you, Mike. They are keeping the questions coming, and you better be prepared because we still have time for a few more questions. Now, from Kezia Ndego, we have another question for you, Mike. What is the difference between these and self-help groups businesses?
Yeah, fantastic question. And maybe also to give a perspective is self-help group can convert as well to become worker cooperative. And I can give the difference in terms of the shortcomings during a self-help group. And I'm also happy to give some of the live examples. And so the difference here is that with a worker cooperative, you can be able to do business with, since you have a certificate which can enable you to do business with that. For a self-help group, it's more focused on the social welfare of its members. And so essentially, you can be limited in terms of doing actual business. And let me give an example to this. One of the cooperatives that we've worked under the past program called Funditech. For those of you who are online, you can check on the website, www.funditech.co.ke. And so initially they existed as an association, which for this case, I can compare that as a self-help group. And so basically these were a group of builders, including masonry, carpenters, plumbers, electricians, and so forth. And so within that association, they could just get referrals for job opportunities. But at the point they now wanted to get sort of business as a unit, it became a challenge since they could not use the association certificate to acquire business, neither a self-help group certificate to get business. And so through the conversion, now they converted and now form Funditech cooperatives. They've been able to do, or rather access job opportunities in tunes of millions. And they have done projects in Italy, Kenyatta Road, and even within Nairobi and outside Nairobi, in Kilifi and different counties. And so you can see the difference is that in terms of the scope of doing business, you get limited when you are a self-help group. And so with a cooperative, you can be able to do business with that. And also one of the limitations for the self-help group, I believe you have to renew your certificate every year. And so for our worker cooperatives, you register once, you exist as a legal entity which can do business with a going concern. And so looking at those differences between a self-help group and a worker cooperative.
All right. Thank you so much, Mike, for that wonderful, wonderful reply. Now, I wish to open the floor to anyone who is brave and bold enough to shoot a question to Mike. Please do unmute, tell us your name and where you are listening to us from and your question. Who wants to go first? I want to see the hands up, the reaction buttons. Use the reaction button to shoot your hand up. Do we have a hand up? All right, Mike, as the audience prepares to have their hands up, I have another question for you, Mike. I have so many questions for you. Could you please share a success story where a cooperative significantly improved its performance through the support of global communities where you are a member, Mike?
Yeah, absolutely. And So basically, for global communities, basically what we do is offer technical assistance in terms of training and capacity strengthening. And so I can give some of the examples. What I've just mentioned about Funditech was one of the cooperatives that we've worked together through the journey. And so them existing initially as an association, they were able to transform and they're able to do business. And so one of the success stories is in seeing them do business. And one of the things that we do emphasize is not only looking at the business unit, but how this is trickled down to the individual members to improve their standards of living, for instance. And so one of the things I mentioned about worker cooperatives having the twofold components of economic aspect and also the social aspect. And so one of the things we endeavor to address is not only the economic justice, but also the social justice to its members. And so we have seen, for instance, Funditech grown over the period, and through our technical assistance in different areas, for instance, training on governance, management, bookkeeping. And one of our intervention for us was ensuring that they'll be able to be compliant. I mentioned earlier on that worker cooperatives operate in a legal environment. And so one of the things operating in a legal environment is that you should be compliant with the rules and regulations stipulated in that particular space. And so through our technical assistance, they have been able to comply, one, with the taxation. And I remember at some point they were bidding for a project with one of the developers. And so one of the requirements for them was to provide evidence that you are compliant. So one of the things is being a legal business entity. They had a registration certificate. The other bit was provide us with a tax compliance certificate for us minimum requirements for us to do business with you. And so through the interventions that we've been doing with them, they've been able to comply with some of those aspects. I talked about auditing. And so you can see that one of the success stories as a project is seeing some of these businesses getting business opportunities, which this trickle down to their members has been an opportunity. And so some of these business enterprises we've worked with over time have organically grown, either in terms of membership, in terms of revenue, in terms of even the business operations. Christopher Odhiambo here from Kigro Recyclers. When we began with them, they were operating in Nairobi, Langata region and parts of Karen. And currently, they've been able to expand to some parts of Kajiado, bordering Nairobi County. And you can see that this is a sign of business expansion. And in the documentary we've just seen is that on that aspect of organically grown over the period is that they started off with a cart, right? Just pulling and collecting garbage within the estates. And at this point, they currently own a lorry which support them in doing their business. And so those are some of the success stories we've seen that through this partnership that we've had with them, we've seen them grown, and more importantly, seeing the benefit trickle down to the individual members. One of their members mentioned about the ability now for them to pay rent and get consistent job opportunities. And some of them initially had been involved in crimes. And so coming into Kipngeno recyclers, they were able to be transformed and do business. And so you can see that also there's that social aspect, and being within that social aspect, there's that accountability where their members can be able to keep them accountable and ensure that they're able to stay within the realms of law. You can see Cedric Mululu has raised his hand.
All right, Cedric, please go ahead.
Yeah, thank you, Mike. Just confirm you can hear me from your side.
Loud and clear, kindly proceed.
Yeah, thank you. It's good to see you guys again. I'm always following your entrepreneurial trainings, and it's really beneficial. I have some few questions. This one is, there's a direct question, and another one is more of just something that I needed to ask from your side. I know I can follow up later, but just, you mentioned about cooperatives, and I think it's a really good business model, especially in the context of upcoming entrepreneurs in informal sector. And I'm really keen with sustainability, and I'm really passionate about sustainability, and that's what I'm doing currently. In my current studies, I'm doing a master's in the United Kingdom. So about sustainability, I know cooperatives, and the way somebody gave a case study, a really nice case study. I think that was it Christopher, or who was it? Yeah, Christopher, I think. There's something around sustainability, and I know the informal waste sector, the way it's characterized by a lot of informality, and so to say, but there's a lot of informality. I know young people, a lot of them have limited knowledge. And now that you're scaling up the cooperative business model to them, I understand there needs to be significant investment in training and development, which may need, to equip the workers with the skills necessary to manage the businesses effectively. So how are you able to meet these needs to them, especially those who haven't really maybe had a chance maybe to have formal education? And how do you manage your sustainability in terms of helping them to be, more reliant by themselves later in the future, just around sustainability? So I'm just keen to know if you have a model to track or maybe help them, be sustainable later in the future. And that's one. And the other one is around, I think I'm really passionate about that Kipngeno recyclers, because my current research, the one that I'm doing, is analyzing the impact of capacity building initiatives on young green entrepreneurs who are working in the waste sector. So just wondering if it's possible maybe to make a follow-up later, if you can help me to get some part of data from the entrepreneurs who are working in that sector. So, but I think I can follow up this later with you, if that's okay.
Yeah, fantastic. And Cedric, good to connect with you all the way from United Kingdom. And also I acknowledge the work we've done together previously at VSO, supporting such entrepreneurs. And so all the best in your education. And so to your questions, I would wish to start off with the informal nature of some of these sectors that we're looking at, the high service sectors. And so one of the things that we are, or rather this particular model is trying to cure, is formalizing the informal sector. For instance, the building and construction sector in Kenya. We all do understand that the lower cadre of the building and construction sector in Kenya is quite informal. And so typical mtu wa mkono, mtu wa mjengo wakes up, looks for a cordon place that's a sign of an opportunity for them. And so carry his or her tools and equipment and head there, hoping that he or she would get an opportunity from there, which would not be assured in the long run. And so one of the things that this particular business model is, once they have been able to come together, one, they can have a formal business setup. And one of the formalization is that they are moving from the informal way of doing things to a more structured way of sourcing for business opportunities as a business unit. The second bit is for skills development. And so one of the things is that, let me use a classical example of the building and construction where we have different levels of skill sets. And so for this, let me focus on the lower cadre in the building and construction, where either you are a skill, whether a craftsman, a technician, an engineer, and moving forward, a consultant, civil engineer, and that way. And so coming and being in a formal business outfit through the worker cooperative model, one of the things that Funditech did was to approach NITA, which is a certifying body, national for those in the technical space. And so there are those that were good at their job, but they did not have any certification. And so that partnership between NITA and Funditech, Funditech having approached them, NITA came and administer tests to some of the members, and some of them passed, and they were being able to they were certified on different levels of their skills. And so one of the things is that out of worker cooperatives, you can see that one, they've been able to formalize the informal sector, and also their individual members have been able to scale, or rather their skills have been able to, they've been able to get certification out of their skills. The other bit about sustainability is that the unique thing about our project implementation is we are keen on sustainability and going concern of our businesses. And statistics have shown that startup businesses, majority of them do not see, or rather do not move beyond their second or third anniversary. Simply because of the sustainability bit. There are also studies that have shown that cooperative businesses are more resilient, and compared to other conventional businesses, cooperative businesses are able to survive beyond the third and fifth anniversary of their establishment. And so the bit or that the bit whereby cooperatives whereby you look at is that one is that members are able to come together. One is being able to pull together resources. And when I talk about resources here is that we are not only looking at financial resources, but also looking at the skill set as a resource, whereby with the little money members can contribute and adding skills as a resource, they can be able to catalyze their business on that front. And like where I'm a sole proprietor, I want to do business. And so what would be a great demand for me would be financial resources for me to be able to, one, have infrastructure, secondly, hire people to do business. And so you can see the differences to these. And so cooperatives have proven to be more resilient and in ensuring that they are more sustainable to conventional businesses. And so you can, I mean, it's evident that a worker cooperative is a solution to the unemployment and also being sustainable businesses in the long run. Cedric, not sure, or do you have a follow-on question?
Mike, unfortunately, we don't have the time to do a follow-up on that.
Okay.
Yeah, time is really running. And so, Mike, you have a minute to give us a parting shot.
Sure. For parting shot is just a call to action for all of us is we could embrace this particular model and utilize it to address the existing unemployment menace that we're experiencing as a country. I've talked about the vast areas, tourism, jua kali sector, waste management, domestic, whereby we can tap into this particular model for us to be able not only to get job opportunities, but decent job opportunities where the owners are able to get access to these job opportunities and lead to improve livelihoods in the long run. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Thank you so much, Mike Kipngeno. Thank you so much. That was so informative. I learned a lot about the worker cooperative business setup, and I hope that each and everyone got to learn about the worker cooperative setup. And I see a question from Irene. Does everyone within the circle have to work there, or can there be owners, shareholders who are not workers? And I'd wish for Olga to answer this question. Now, ladies and gentlemen, for those who don't know who Olga is, Olga happened to have had a short, not even a short stint, that's almost a decade working for the World Bank Group, all the way from Deloitte, and now as the current Kenya team lead for the USAID and the Clear Project Director, Global Communities. Global Communities happens to be one of the biggest organizations across Africa and the world in general. Olga, you have a minute to answer that.
Hi, Ian. Hi, everyone. That's an ambush, Ian, for today, but happy to chime in. So first of all, a worker cooperative is not a SACCO. A SACCO is a financial cooperative, which falls under a different category and whose common bond is savings and credit. So for the worker cooperative, with time, the workers, and depending on the amount of work that the co-op gets, the co-op can employ workers who are not necessarily members. But you remember, for you as a member to benefit and to get the wages, you also need to work. So that's a balance that the co-op has to manage for itself. But yes, they can hire from outside. Thanks.
All right. Thank you so much, Olga, for that wonderful session and answer. Now, ladies and gentlemen, it's my utmost pleasure to get to end this meeting here. Remember, we were to end it at 1 p.m. and I'd have loved to stretch this session all the way to 2 p.m. But we have to pay respect to our time, as we had only an hour, 30 minutes. And ladies and gentlemen, now this is the time, the minute and the hour where we have to call it quits. And I wish to take it back to our convener, Josephine Osumo. My name, ladies and gentlemen, is Ian Githu. Over and back to you, Josephine.
Thank you so much, Ian. Thank you, Mike, and thank you, Olga, for just taking up the answers in the chat. Everybody, thank you for taking time and being here with us. And before we go on, I hope that you have had a clear understanding of what worker cooperatives are. The testimonial from Chris about Kipngeno has added to your understanding. And for those whose questions we have not answered, I trust and believe that you did register, which means we have your email address, and we will send you the link of our question or the answers to your questions at a later date. Okay. Our moderator today has been Ian Githu. Ian is a project manager, data analyst, and corporate trainer, boasting nearly a decade of experience in this space. He has mastered the art of leading teams, managing software product life cycles, and extracting actionable insights from data. His exceptional communication and presentation skills ignite a passion for excellence, driving organizational success and making him an invaluable asset in every endeavor. I can personally attest to the fact that Ian is a powerhouse of talent and energy, having been in spaces before this one where he has taken on various tasks and various roles. Ian, thank you so much for moderating today's session. Before we wind up, I would like to give some time to Sonny from the SME Founders Association. SME Founders Association is our host for today, and it will not be right for us to leave our host's house before they tell us a bit about themselves. So over to you, Sonny, just to tell us something about you, about SFA.
Thank you so much, Josephine, for this opportunity. It's really been a very exciting session. So probably to just wrap it up a little bit and get to know who we are as SME founders. In short, we normally call ourselves SFA. So who are we as SME founders? And apart from this particular session, which was very, very vibrant, what else do we do in terms of coordinating and supporting SMEs? So SME Founders was founded in 2015. So we've been around for about 9 years. Our main aim is to grow, to help SMEs grow, scale, and thrive. And how do we do this? We do this through connecting them to money, markets, and mentors. I think from this session, you've seen a lot around getting to understand what is happening in the market and what are the other opportunities we can plug into as SMEs. So SME Founders Association is by founders for founders. How are we able to plug in SMEs so that we can support them? We have the network, which has various programs, one of them being a Founders Profit Academy. So these are sessions that we hold throughout the year. Once you come on board as a partner, you'll be available to access some of that. We also have a program called Catalyst. And finally, we have Business Dialogues, which is a Toastmasters club that empowers the SMEs to effectively communicate so that you're able to sell yourself as best as you can once you meet your clients or investors or any other platform that requires you to express yourself. We also have the Yagua program, which is for the youth, and more so when we get partners into this program would be to be supporting the youth to be able to get into entrepreneurship so that we plug or we get them into the system as early as possible because as we know, they really need our support. So the other thing maybe I can talk about very quickly is what is in it for you if you become a partner. There's the aspect of brand visibility. Whatever it is that you're selling, we have a network where you are able to display your products to the full ecosystem of SMEs that we have. We also have a pool of human resource. We talked about mentors, which means if you need expertise in whichever area that needs support in your business, we do have those experts in-house. We also have sessions where you're able to bring your product and there's interaction with our network. We have advertisement space, we have product penetration that happens when you're able to link product to market. And finally, the aspect of aligning your brands. So how do you become part of us? So for those who have already registered for this particular session, we will reach out to you as outreach. And also our contacts are up there. In terms of our mail, we have hello@SME Founders Association, www.smefoundersassociation.com, and also those are our phone numbers. So if you can be able to screenshot that, that would help you to reach us. But definitely we'll be reaching out. My name is Sonny. I'm in the outreach program. Very, very excited to carry on the conversations with you going forward. Thank you so much, Josephine. Back to you.
Awesome. Thank you, Sonny. Thank you for that. And if there's anybody who hasn't had, you can also take a screenshot and just send the email address. It's hello@smefoundersassociation.com. All right, before I release you to go on and have your lunch, I want to bring your attention to our next learning lab. And that will be next week, the 8th of this month. And we will be discussing building and sustaining entrepreneur ecosystems, focusing on governance, governance structures, financial management, and how to sustain member engagement within ecosystems. Now then, if you want to know how to sustain member engagement, this will be the learning lab to join. Tell your people to join it. We will be answering the question, or rather the question we will seek to answer is, what are the best practices for establishing and managing entrepreneurial ecosystems? We will have a team of 5 panelists. Let me see if I can share my screen so that you can just see the panelists themselves. There we go. I hope you can see my screen. Our moderator will be Lucy Wanjiru. Our panelists will be Daisy Amdani, Salma Ibrahim, Nuru Lohindi, Martin Waweru, and Vicky Karuga. This is a session you do not want to miss. And with that said, we have come to the end of today's session. Thank you so much for joining us. And I hope you have taken a lot of learning and a lot of key takeaways. My one takeaway from this entire session is this: the government is invested in ensuring that worker cooperatives succeed. What better place to be than in a worker cooperative if you want your business to succeed? You have the backing of the government behind you. Then you have Clear Plus that is going to help you be able to do this. Thank you so much and have a good evening, or rather a good afternoon. I'm rushing you. Have a good afternoon.